audio version of an original article by Kathi Kresol, operator of Haunted Rockford Paranormal Events, Rockford, Illinois. This audio presentation is entitled Horrendous Crime Still Lingers in Stateline Memory and contains the 2021 story of the same name. The article was first published in the Rock River Times.
Most people in northern Illinois wouldn't have recognized the names Catherine Rickott, Carl A. Ryman, or Betty F. Peach. But that would change on December 29, 1972. It was a Friday night, and the Christmas lights were still up in the Pine Village Steakhouse and Tavern in Yorkville, Illinois. The dinner rush had ended, and 16-year-old Catherine Rickott was finishing her shift as a dishwasher. Her father, Donald, was already out in the parking lot to give her a ride home. Catherine had begged her parents to let her get the job only a few weeks before. She wanted extra money to buy Christmas presents. There were only a few other people inside the restaurant when Carl A. Ryman walked in with his girlfriend, Betty F. Peach. The staff knew the couple, but one waitress, Harriet, thought it odd that Betty was wearing a blonde wig that night. Harriet was working in the back a few moments later when the terrifying sounds of gunfire rang out. She ran out the back door and across the yard to the owner's house. Wendell Flint couldn't quite understand the hysterical girl that pounded on his door that night. He only understood the words, "gunshots fired." Catherine's father, Donald Rickott, was an amateur radio buff, and he quickly called the police on his scanner when he heard the gunshots. He was able to give a description of the couple that came running out of the steakhouse. Donald also managed to notice the direction the car headed as it sped away from the parking lot. Police officer Richard Randall and restaurant owner Wendell Flint arrived at about the same time. They were horrified by the scene. "There were bodies all over the place," Flint would state later. Officer Randall would describe it as the most heinous crime scene of his career. There were 3 bodies behind the bar, and one victim was on the floor in front of the bar. Another man who tried to flee made it to the dining room before he was shot. Kendall County Coroner William Dunn would later describe the scene as a bloody massacre. Everyone was astonished to find one of the victims clinging to life. John Wilson was a bartender at the restaurant. He had been shot twice in the head. Though all efforts were made to save him, Wilson succumbed to his injuries a few days later. The officers' horror at the brutal scene quickly grew when they realized that there was a couple with 2 small children hiding under one of the tables near the bar. They rushed the hysterical family to safety. The family told officers they had entered the restaurant just as Ryman and Peach were gathering the money from the cash register. Ryman told them to sit down and not to look at he and Peach. Later, police would find out that Ryman had planned to shoot the family, but he ran out of ammunition. Coroner Dunn made his way through the restaurant, examining the dead. The victims were 35-year-old Dave Gardner, who stopped by the restaurant to get his family dinner, Robert Loftus, a 48-year-old retired Navy veteran, 73-year-old George T. Pashade, a chef at the Pineville for 11 years, and 16-year-old Catherine Rickott. One doesn't even want to think about what was going through Donald's mind as he waited outside the scene for news about his daughter. 40 minutes later, near the small town of Morris, Illinois, a police cruiser spotted the 1959 Chevrolet and pulled it over. Carl Ryman still carried the .32 caliber chrome automatic revolver that he had used in the robbery. The police were also able to recover the money that was taken. The $500 amount seemed too small for the deaths of 5 people. Authorities learned that Ryman had served 2 years in a Nebraska prison for armed robbery. He came to live with his mother in Sandwich, Illinois upon his release. They theorized that maybe this time he decided not to leave any witnesses. People in northern Illinois found it hard to believe that the slight young man could shoot 5 people in cold blood. The defense team argued that there was no way that Ryman and Peach would receive a fair trial in Kendall County. The lawyers won their argument, and the case was shifted to Winnebago County. The week-long trial began in May of 1973. A jury of 7 men and 5 women listened to all the horrendous details of the crime. It was the first time that the details were released to the public. Some of the victims had been shot more than once, but they had all been killed with shots to the head. Carl Ryman was sentenced to 50 to 150 years for each of the 5 counts of murder and 20 to 60 years on the robbery charge. Betty Peach was sentenced to serve 20 to 60 years for each of the 5 murders and 10 to 30 years for the robbery. This case has continued to gain headlines even though 49 years have passed. Peach served her sentence and was released in 1983. She died in 2004. Ryman was paroled under a lot of protest in 2018. In fact, people in the towns where he tried to settle protested 3 times before the state could find someplace for him to live. Officer Randall kept in touch with Catherine Ricat's family through the years. The Ricat family's greatest fear was that Ryman would be released from prison. Catherine's father, Donald, passed away on December 30th, 1995, long before Ryman walked free. Randall remembered that people in Yorkville were grateful for that. There is only so much heartache one family can take.
This is the end of our audio article. We hope you enjoyed it. The article, Horrendous Crime Still Lingers in Stateline Memory, was written by Kathi Kresol, copyright 2021. The article is also available in print on hauntedrockford.com. This audio presentation was produced by Thomas Saunders for Haunted Rockford, copyright 2024.